With the Marvel set to release to the worst opening box office numbers potentially in MCU history when you account for inflation, I have found what might be the best article on the subject, written by the true apex of feminist propaganda sites. Yeah, they dwarf Polygon, they dwarf Kotaku. I'm of course talking about the Mary Sue, because even they are having trouble finding anything positive to say about the Marvels, but by God, it's not for lack of trying. Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and let's go through and just gobble up every morsel of what these sentient outhouses have to say about the Marvels. But before that, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, because I'm looking to get to 2,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and we're less than 300 away. I'm not even going to do too much shilling. Let's just get into this, shall we? The Marvel's low box office prediction suggests it's the right film at the wrong time, and that is about as nice as it gets through this entire article. Like, even the Mary Sue couldn't find a good-looking photo of Brie Larson. She looks like she's angry at this title, and this is by Rachel Oltowski, because, I'll be honest, I don't even think that Mary Sue lets men write for him. The Marvels is right around the corner, and the world is doomed because of it. Marvel's latest superhero team-up hits theaters on November 10th in the wake of several major box office flops and disappointments for Disney. And you know what? I do want to go ahead and say a broken clock is right twice a day. You know, at least the Mary Sue is finally acknowledging that, yeah, Disney's box office has been abysmal the last year and a half, 2 years, because, you know, these are the same articles and the same outlets that were defending things like The Little Mermaid, claiming they actually did make money. So at least reality has set in some way, shape, or form. Box office predictions for the film are stirring curiosity. The Marvels is set to be one of the most significant Marvel Cinematic Universe crossover events since Avengers Infinity War. Imagine being that deluded. Imagine sitting there typing this out and either A, lying and just putting this out here because of the sort of propaganda that your audience expects and maybe doesn't even realize it's propaganda, they just eat this sort of stuff up, or maybe you're so deluded to actually believe that this is one of the most significant crossover events since Avengers Infinity War. Like, even if Marvel had not taken the downturn it took, there is nothing that they could do. Even Spider-Man, the most recent Spider-Man that brought all the universes together, wasn't as significant as Infinity War and Endgame when you look at, you know, the culmination of everything that came before it. So putting Marvel, Captain Marvel, the Marvels up there with it, that is pure insanity. Featuring a Marvel superhero team-up between Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, and Miss Marvel. As a result, it serves as a direct sequel to both Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel. Yeah, a direct sequel, so direct they couldn't even call it Captain Marvel 2. That's how much they're banking on that name making them money. It's expected to potentially tie up loose ends from WandaVision and Secret Invasion. Let me tell you, that ain't gonna happen. We all know, and we've known for a while, that Marvel, the MCU, Disney, they got no plans. They didn't have any post-Endgame plans, and that's why everything together has been some hodgepodge of something that might be able to be considered a story. Maybe, if you look real hard with one eye closed in the right lighting. Like, how do they think it's going to cover WandaVision and Secret Wars, as well as Miss Marvel and, the Captain Marvel movie itself? Again, the pure delusion in this article is, frankly, it's astounding to me. And that's not even to take into account all the massive reshoots that have happened for this film that probably has left untold amounts of potential tying of loose ends up on the cutting room floor. The film sees the three heroes forced to team up when their powers become entangled. They will have to learn to work together quickly, as they're also facing a threat from the Kree revolutionary Dar Ben, a gender-swapped character, by the way, for all y'all that didn't know. In addition to being a major crossover, and being very liberal with the term major, but this is the Mary Sue, liberal is par for the course, The Marvels is also a much-needed female-led film from the franchise. Now, remind me why it's much needed? Like, don't get me wrong, I love strong female characters when they're actually done well, as much as the next guy, or girl, but yeah, why is a much-needed female-led film actually needed? Why not just a good film that happens to have women? You guys are so obsessed with the vulvas and the lack of cocks and whatnot that it really clouds your judgment when it comes to writing these trash articles, but at least it gives me something to cover and get my jollies on. Based on the trailers, it also looks like a whole lot of fun. Oh yeah, that explains the dislike ratio. There are heroes accidentally swapping places, meeting lots of kittens, and potentially even participating in a wedding and a musical number. When they say in the musical number, these are the same individuals that threw a fit in an article that Joker Joker 2 was going to include Harley Quinn, which Joker 2 has been, portrayed as going to be a musical. So, do you like musicals in your superhero stuff? Do you not? I'm getting a little bit of, mixed signals here. And the Marvels looks very promising. This might be the only outlet to say this film looks promising. There are many concerns due to recent unpredictability at the box office and whispers of superhero and franchise fatigue among audiences. What do you mean whispers? We've been shouting it from the rooftop, not just people like us, not just this anti-woke alt-right crowd that you loathe so much, but the general audience member has been screaming about superhero fatigue because nothing after Endgame, again, except for maybe Spider-Man, has actually wet the whistles of the masses in the way that Marvel has anticipated, and honestly, not just from the MCU, non-MCU films like Morbius or any of these other superhero things out there. Aquaman 2 is coming out, and it's going to be just as much, if not more of a flop than the Marvels. It's not whispers of superhero fatigue. Look at the viewing numbers for any of the Disney Plus shows. People are shouting this, and Marvel and Disney just don't get the message. Additionally, it's very risky to release such a major film during the SAG-AFTRA strike when promotional activities are limited. Actually, that's one of the things that's probably going to help this film, because Brie Larson can't be out there opening her mouth and, driving people away from it. So that's one of the saving graces of the SAG-AFTRA strike that's going to, save this movie. Well, save. All of which makes box office predictions for the Marvels particularly interesting. The Marvels box office projections. Unfortunately, the Marvels box office projections are not looking very good. With the film just a week away, Box Office Tracker Box Office Pro estimates an opening weekend of 50 to 75 million. And let's be real, they're flubbing the numbers a little bit, because this article, by the time you're seeing this, was written yesterday. And let me tell you, as of 3 or 4 days ago, we saw new tracking that has it poised for 40 to 50 million. Them still using these 50 to 75 million numbers is them using information that's been outdated by about a week or so. So yeah, again, you see the propaganda in full force. However, the estimations vary a bit from tracker to tracker. The Hollywood Reporter says the film is tracking for a 75 million to 80 million opening. We all know that ain't happening. It's gonna be lucky to get to 75 million. I'm banking more on the 50 million side of things. So yeah, tracking it at 75 to 80 million, anyone worth their salt knows that's not gonna be a thing. And while the Quorum estimates slightly higher, 80 million to 90 million, now that's just wishful thinking. Like that is beyond the pale. That's beyond possibility. Even the higher end of these estimations is still a bit low for an MCU film. On average, MCU films tend to open to 70 to 100 million, though some have enjoyed bigger openings. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania opened to 104 million this year and was still considered a box office disappointment when it failed to break even. Well, maybe if you took a page out of Five Nights at Freddy's book and started making these movies for 25 mil instead of 250 mil, you wouldn't be running into this issue. And considering Captain Marvel is looking to be almost 300 million, about 230 million after the tax credit, yada yada, I get that. Point is, it is gonna have such a massive hurdle, it's quite funny what we're going to see. Like, I'm waiting to see the Mary Sue and Kotaku and all these other articles and all these other outlets try and jump through hoops to justify how this movie made a profit or made its money back or hit its budget, when we all know that is not happening. Even if the movie actually is good, when your budget is that big and you account for marketing and you account for the theater cut, there is no world shy of this making a bill that it's making its budget back and making a profit. It's not gonna make a bill. The last time an MCU film opened up to 70 million was 8 years ago, and that was the first Ant-Man film, which I do stand by the fact is the probably second best solo outing in the entire MCU. People really sleep on the first Ant-Man movie, but it's awesome. If the Marvels really is tracking open to 50 million or so, it could be the worst box office opening for an MCU in years. And again, when you adjust for inflation, of all time. I've done the math. We did it on Saturday Night Hypnosis a few months ago, or a few weeks ago, whatever. It's also a massive step down from Captain Marvel, which opened to a massive 153 million in 2019. What's especially concerning is that the Marvel's estimated budget is nearly 300 million. Can you believe the Mary Sue is out here being honest about the budget? I never would have or could have foreseen this. I mean, again, broken clocks twice a day, you guys all know, but I'm actually almost impressed. Now, if maybe they could channel this level of journalistic integrity into every single other article and the vast majority of the rest of this article, then maybe they'd be an outlet worth saving, but we all know that ain't gonna happen, so making it even more difficult for the Marvels to break even. Of course, those are just projections. While box office predictions can be fairly accurate in analyzing box office behavior and the attitudes of audiences, there's always the possibility for anomalies. To be fair, there's also the possibility that everybody on day one could just decide, you know what, I'd rather rewatch Fern Gully on Netflix because I haven't seen it since 1994, and just no one shows up at the theater. That would be an anomaly, and it would be a much better anomaly than if it ended up making, 100 million, 80 million, or anything else to that effect. So, yes, let's all pray for anomalies, but anomalies in the opposite direction. Fern Gully's a good movie, and it's got all your liberal save the planet propaganda stuff that you would want to see. Just watch Fern Gully instead. However, the Marvels has a lot of things working against it. From strikes to lack of advertising to superhero fatigue, there's also the fact this lead trio is so new to the franchise and audiences haven't had much time to become attached to them before the team up. Would you look at that? How is the Mary Sue acknowledging the same sort of things that we've all said? They go on later in the article to talk about us sort of right-wing anti-woke chuds and the issues we have with female characters, but you know what? This is our problem. The problem about new characters that are not given time to breathe and Marvel just thrusting them on us, and not just Marvel, but other studios as well, as if we don't enjoy well-written characters regardless of what they got or don't got between their legs. You're almost getting it. But you're so adamant that you want this movie to succeed purely because there's, 6 titties involved that you can't actually acknowledge the reality that this isn't a good way to do things. It will be very disappointing if the Marvels flops and the anti-woke crowd will insist it failed because it's a female-led film. Once again, no one in the anti-woke crowd cares it's a female-led film. We love female-led films when they are done well. We love female-led anything when they're done well. You want to know who everybody loves? Lara Croft in the original Tomb Raider games. Lara Croft is beloved amongst gamers everywhere. Not that new remake reboot crap, but the original. Jill Valentine from Resident Evil. In fact, half the Resident Evil cast are main female characters, and pretty much all of them are beloved. But obviously, you got the examples like Sarah Connor. You got the examples like Wonder Woman. If we hated women so much, why did Wonder Woman succeed? Maybe because aside from the final act of that movie, it's actually a good movie with a well-written female character. You can't really say that about the sequel, but I'm trying to focus on the positive things. Yes, the anti-woke crowd, we're going to be right that it fails because it's a female-led film, but more because it is a female-led film with poorly written female characters that panders to an audience and shoves agendas down one's throat instead of taking the time to adequately introduce, set up, and give character development to these female characters. In reality, the Marvels has so much potential, it absolutely does not, and a female superhero team-up film is long overdue. Again, explain to me why it's long overdue, why you're so obsessed with these immutable characteristics when we've had female-led media all day, every day for years that people love. Every single Disney princess movie that sold buku bucks and still is iconic imagery to this day in the toy aisles and Walmarts everywhere are female-led, and people loved them. They are icons. So remind me why you're acting as if something like this has never been done before. These low box office projections suggest it's not just the right time for another superhero film, especially with characters Marvel hasn't taken this time to establish well enough. I cannot believe they actually ended the article like that. Now, I will say, this article has proven to me that some writers for the Mary Sue do have a higher IQ than the average dodo bird, and while that ain't saying much, it's more faith than I had before, so thank you very much for instilling that in me. I mean that with all sincerity. But seriously, look at this article, look at how they try with every vein possible to make excuses for why the film is going to fail, while acknowledging it is going to fail, and that they're just hoping for something different. They're hoping to the contrary, but even writing this, they know, yeah, this is a flop, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to spin it as, this is a good movie, but it's being released at the wrong time. No, there is no right time to release a film like this when nobody cares about this crap anymore, when no one has cared since Avengers Endgame, with the exception of Spider-Man. Yeah, Doctor Strange made $1 gazillion, and Guardians 3 did pretty good as well. But when are people going to talk about those again? Because that interest seems to have fallen off, and even when Doctor Strange came out, it made a lot of money, but almost nobody liked it. People did like Guardians 3, I'll give them that, but that was more of a holdover directing style from before Marvel got all, let's be honest, pandering and agendified. So, yeah, I really don't think that even the Mary Sue has a leg to stand on, and I think that they know that, which is hilarious to see, because they're doing everything to confirm that we were correct without actually giving us credit. And you know what? I don't need to be given credit. I just want to see things change. And this is the change I'm loving to see. Somewhat honest journalism, even if it's through gritted teeth. But those are just my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on X, where you can find me at BoltTheWord. And please do subscribe. I am a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day. I'm trying to hit the 2,000 subscriber mark before the end of the year, and we are getting real close with less than 300 to go. So I think you could do it. Hit that button, especially if you enjoy content like this. And I don't always just cover the MCU, even though the last 2 days it seemed like it, but really anything in the realm of video games, anime, Magic the Gathering. Check me out on Instagram at wordsofparadise_Leon, because it's all here in the nerdosphere. And this has been Words of Paradise.